So NBA basketball is back, and that means that the Utah Jazz are back in action as they were in the first day against the New Zealand Breakers. And yes, they are not a NBA team technically, but at the same time, they are a professional basketball team that does demand a certain level of respect. And while the styles may be different, and that's why they don't necessarily take too strong against NBA competition, they still provided a solid level of competition against the Utah Jazz yesterday. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Wraith Hoops. I cover a lot of NBA basketball. Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to catch every upload. With that being said, today we're going to be talking about Lauri Markkanen and what I can expect from him this season and what yesterday's game told me about what we can expect from him going forward. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this one. So he specifically ended up having 6 out of the first 13 points that the Jazz scored, and he had the first real bucket that we ended up seeing. He had about, I believe it was 3 or 4 dribbles, I want to say it was 4, as he drove off a catch on the left wing, drives inside, does a little spin, gets to the middle of the paint and hits a little fadeaway. There was another one where he hit a curl specifically, took 2 dribbles and went downhill at the basket, got that lay to go. Overall, he was 5-7 from the field. He only played 15.5 minutes, 1 of 2 from 3-point range, hit both of his free throws, 3 rebounds. Really just a scoring load for him. He had a box score plus minus of +12, but we kind of throw that in the trash because we were playing the New Zealand Breakers and this is a preseason game. But nevertheless, his 13 points were impressive to me, and they did tell me what we can expect from him this season. Now, we do understand that the Utah Jazz are planning to tank this year. It's no surprise. We expect them to play a lot of their young guys. Will Hardy has even openly said that this is going to be a year where we focus on the young talent, focus on developing them and putting them into positions to be their best version of themselves and finding out just who they are as players. But for Lauri Markkanen, who is obviously going to play at the very least probably 55 to 65 games, I would guess, outside of sitting on the end of back-to-backs in certain games where we might be like overly favored to win, I suppose. I think that for him on the court, his diet of shots is going to be different. And I don't think there's enough people talking about it. A lot of people just say, oh, the Jazz want to be bad so they can get Cooper Flagg. They want to get Ace Bailey. They want to get Ryan Traore. Like, yes, of course, they do want to get another top pick. They have 3 first-rounders to begin with, but at the same time, you also want to be very strategic with what you do with your players and what the expectations are for each player throughout this year. Yes, you're fine being a bad overall team, but the individual pieces need to still be pushing forward. And for Lauri Markkanen, the next iteration of his game that I've always said needs to get better is, as some people say, him becoming more of a Dirk Nowitzki-esque type player. Obviously, Dirk was known as the best big man shooter previous to Karl-Anthony Towns and Lauri Markkanen stepping on the stage, but at the same time, he had more of a dribble game to him. He wasn't going to sit there and break anybody's ankles and then go to the rack and just boom on somebody. That wasn't his game. Of course, we know he was a little bit more of a finesse player. He was more of a bump and fade kind of guy. Lauri Markkanen, statistically, outside of 1 to 2 dribbles, has been, to be quite frank, in the most blunt way possible, a horde shooter. Like, I'm talking like 27 is the high mark, I want to say, on 4 dribbles. Now, he also rarely takes that number of shots from that particular shot selection, and it's because of the players that he's always played with, the roles that he's always been put in, and that's why I expect this year we see something different. Because yes, we're going to see Colin Sexton running some guard spots. We saw him improve over the end of the season. We saw Keontae George have spurts, and I think that he's going to continue to have spurts. We saw some out of Isaiah Collier last night. That was surprising. He was fairly turnover prone. He had 6 assists to 5 turnovers, I believe. So there's going to be some growth there. But overall, I think Lauri Markkanen is going to show us that he can score with the ball in his hands and his hands alone. I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to see 7 Lauri Markkanen ISO possessions every game. But would I be surprised if we did get it 1 or 2 games out of the season? No, not at all, because it makes sense that he tries something new. Yes, we know he's a great shooter. He can shoot 40% from 3. We know that. We know he's efficient from the free throw line. We know he's got that burner on him. You know what I'm saying? We know that he can play defense at a high level when it's necessary for him to do so. We also know he's very nimble for a 7-footer. My goodness, the way he moves is just elegant. The strength and power of a center and the ability to be as nimble as so many small forwards in the game is something that's highly coveted, and a lot of people don't really, I guess, glaze him enough for, as some people would say. But I would like to also talk about specifically the fact that we just need to see him put the ball on the deck more and see him get a bucket. And I wholeheartedly believe that this will be a down year shooting overall statistically for him, because obviously there's a lot of young guys on the roster. There's a lot of discontinuity, a lot of stuff that needs to be tried out. But at the same time, I think the diet of shots is going to more so be the reason why his percentages dip. I want to see Lauri taking 4 dribbles and missing some fadeaways. I want to see him taking 3 dribbles and trying to shoot a pull-up and it misses. I want to see those type of shots. Similarly to how I felt about Walker Kessler, I just want him to be more aggressive. I want Lauri to be more selfish. Most of his threes, I believe there was like 14 of his makes last year, did not come off an assist. Meaning it wasn't somebody passing the ball and then he just lines that thing up. And it was probably a little bit less than that, to be quite honest. So the fact that he does so much damage with the flow of the offense, that's really, really good. But if you can get him to the point where you're already seeing him as your lighthouse, your beacon of hope, the next step of his game, the only thing that can make peak Lauri Markkanen more peak is him being able to score in an ISO by himself at a very high rate. And there's going to be no time like the present to get that job done. The Utah Jazz are expected to be bad, right? They're expected to be a lottery pick team. How lottery they pick will end up honestly just being on how well the players play and how many games the peak players on the roster end up playing, because that will play very heavily into it. Lauri Markkanen specifically is going to shoot a lot of shots. Last year, he shot upwards of 15 on a nightly basis, and I don't see it changing this year, even though I do expect him to play around the same number of games, just because there's not a lot of other developed scores. And while we do want to get other people's shots, Lauri Markkanen is just going to tweak the type of shots that he takes. He's still going to get his 15, 16, 17 shots a night, but you're going to see more 3 or 4 pull-ups, 5 or 6 pull-ups, a drive to the rim, a curl like he ran last night. I've found that to be very interesting. Now, of course, against the New Zealand Breakers, you're probably going to outmatch them talent for talent at each position spot, but nevertheless, Lauri is still going to have to fight and work for every bucket, and that's what he did. He didn't sit there and take any cupcakes. But it was also because he was playing the New Zealand Breakers why I think he felt more comfortable putting the ball on the deck, and while it's becoming more of an expectation in his head that that's something he would like to do, something he would like to add to his game, he's going to have to make those conscious efforts right now in the preseason, so that way when the regular season starts and you start seeing more high-level NBA caliber players, his brain doesn't say, I'd rather pass out of this one-on-one. No, I want this one-on-one. That's what we want to see Lauri Markkanen do. And this year, I think that he's going to still be a 20, 24-ish point scorer. It's going to take a couple more shots. It's going to take a different type of shot. And I keep hammering that home in this video. It's going to sound repetitive. I hope you leave this video understanding. Lauri Markkanen is going to take an evolutionary step this season. I think so. I have no reason to believe otherwise. While we could see a world where most of his shots do come off of the catch, I think that it's still going to be something where we see maybe 8 or 9 of his shots a game are coming off of an assisted situation or a lob to the rim. And then you're going to see 7 or 8 that are also of his own design. Him catching on the wing, him catching on the high post, him catching on the block and going to work. Just him doing it himself and him picking what kind of shot he wants, instead of him going to a certain zone on the floor and then just waiting for somebody to kick it to him and then he does a 1 dribble pull up, he does a regular 3. Like, I want to see some more creativity to it. And I think that he's definitely capable of doing it. I have no reason to believe that he won't be healthy enough to do it throughout the season, though we will sit him and say, oh, he's got a sore calf. Oh, he's got a, lower back tightness. He's got, strain of some sort in any one of his muscle groups, because with him being a 7-footer and with him being as good as he is, he has the ability to, at a certain point, push us over the edge in some games that we probably shouldn't be in. But let's say 2 or 3 other players on the roster get really hot that game and we're in it, he's the type of guy that can definitely push you over the edge and help you get that W. But if you're truly planning on tanking to get one of the best players, and then after that year you're trying to go up to the moon with it, Lauri Markkanen needs to evolve his game and be open to making mistakes. That's another thing. He's going to miss a lot of shots. Like I said, field goal percentage is still going to be good. I'm not sitting here saying he's always going to shoot like Jordan Clarkson did last year. He's still going to have a solid shooting percentage, and a lot of people may not even pay attention to the fact that his shot diet did change. Because let's face it, most NBA people that watch basketball just don't pay attention to the Utah Jazz as much as I think that they personally should. And so they would go as far as to say that guys like Colin Sexton are mediocre without actually looking at the numbers. And Lauri Markkanen, yeah, he's a great shooter, but he's not Karl-Anthony Towns. Okay, buddy, did you watch the tape? Me personally, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to end up shooting, 20% from three-point range in the playoffs at any point in his career once they finally get there, but he's never been there before. I think that we're going to see it in the near future, though. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think that Lauri Markkanen is going to undergo some change in the way he plays the game of basketball this season as much as I do? Or do you think this is going to be the best version of Lauri Markkanen that there is ever going to be? And that's perfectly fine if you do, because he is a very impressive player to watch. He's solid on defense. He has a little bit of a playmaking sense. He's an elite shooter, and you can always add a ball dominant star alongside him, and it will not change a beat for his drum. With that being said, though, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Without any further ado, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.